This is my channel's weekly compendium, ending Monday, April 15th, 2024. Enjoy. Case file number 1566, written by Thraxhammer, The Mysterious Journey of the Wandering Cards. I like playing cards and tarot cards. I just happen upon them individually. I'll walk down the street and bam, I'll spot a card. I've not lived in areas that have a heavy gambling presence either. I started holding onto them a few years back, and now I have over 2 decks worth of cards. Somewhat more strange. Understand that I don't talk much about religion or whatnot. I believe such things should be private, as much as possible. That speaking definitively about what is, or supposed to be, ineffable, is foolish to the highest order. My wife is non-religious. We have a son. Out of nowhere, when our son was 2, he started talking in very specific, articulate terms about his previous life, how he died as an old man, the hat he wore, how he felt about the life he lived. He mentioned that he was happy to be with us and that he felt very lucky. My wife and I were floored. We tried to talk to him more about it, ask him questions, but he couldn't remember. His speech became far more appropriate, less articulate, less focused on abstracts, etc. Within a week, he couldn't even remember telling us what he had initially said. Also, this was during a time when we didn't have TV, so no TV shows to influence this young mind. Stranger still, my paternal grandma was in her 90s. She was doing less well and was, unfortunately, living in a nursing home. It was a nice facility, at least. I was working crunch hours all the time, and I hadn't had an opportunity to visit for months. I had a dream where I was in a luminous silver fog. I was a point of light in this fog. I saw my grandma, who was also a point of light in the fog. We talked to each other, said our I love yous, and said goodbye. Then, a fantastically bright light shot up between us like a comet. My grandmother said, "Oh, there goes Fred Rogers. He was such a nice man." I woke up suddenly. On the way to work, I heard on the radio that Mr. Rogers, Mr. Fred Rogers, had just died. 2 weeks later, my grandma passed away. I have more stories, as I'm sure we all do. Life is weird, and I love it. Case file number 1567, written by It Goes the Other Way Too, A Chance Encounter with a Pink Sock. Okay, in 2009, I performed a show on a boat at the Edinburgh Festival. It was a pretty stressful show. The cast were there for 10 days, performing 5 shows a day, back-to-back shuffling back and forth between the boat and our flat, with a change of clothes each day so that we could go out straight after the last show. Anyway, one day we're walking from the boat to the flat and I see a pink sock on the pavement. I pick it up, it's pink with a white cupcake on it. It has to be mine. I have this exact same pair of socks with me in Edinburgh. I must have dropped it as it's so close to the boat. The rest of the cast is all grossed out that I'm touching this sock and considering taking it back to the flat. But I'm totally convinced it must be mine. Get back to the flat, and it wasn't. It kind of blew my mind that someone in a small vicinity had the same distinctive socks as me and proceeded to lose one on my path home. Who loses a sock? So I kept the extra sock. Now I have 3. Bonus file, written by Acrobatic Archer 805, The Snowstorm Specter. Maybe about 10 years ago, I was working as a manager at a smallish restaurant chain. I'd been with the company for a while, but was fairly new at this location. It was in Sturbridge, Massachusetts, USA, which probably doesn't mean anything to most people. But the 2 jobs I'd had prior in that town are a little locally famous for being haunted. I've had my share of ghost sightings and weird stuff. This was different. The building here was 3 floors. Bottom was an antique store and half of the restaurant, then the second floor was all the restaurant. On the 3rd floor was an abandoned ballroom with all glass walls that likely once overlooked a lake behind the property. But a hotel had been built since and blocked the view. Super creepy space, but nobody ever went up there. Might be irrelevant, but that's the property. We had a pretty bad snowstorm this particular day. I'd been shoveling and salting the walkways and went in to start my shift. I'm walking from the kitchen on the 2nd floor and down a couple steps to the dining room area, and something hit me. I squeezed my eyes shut, brought my hands up to my face and fell back a little and yelled out, "Come on, guys!" At that moment, I thought someone had taken a bucket of rock salt and threw it at me. It felt like thousands of little pieces of something hard pelted me on my whole body. I was half expecting it to be a prank, but I opened my eyes after a bit, and it was like pulling my shirt to check for salt or something all in my bra. because I felt it literally everywhere. Here's the thing, nothing was there. Once I realized I was fine and not covered in a pile of salt or rocks or whatever, I looked around. And two of the waitresses were just staring at me, like stop setting tables wide-eyed, because their perspective was that I just stopped, put my hands up to my face to shield it, fell back, yelled out, "Come on, guys!" and then started pulling my shirt like I was trying to shake something out of it. They saw me react, but nothing that would cause a reaction. I'm not sure exactly what that was or what it could have been. Case file number 1568, written by Insurance Dangerous 79, when night turns to day without warning. Every summer in southern Spain, we celebrate Fiesta, which is like an outdoor party, with bars built like boxes with no ceiling. So basically, everybody is around the fairgrounds, drinking and going in and out of the bars to dance, grab some drinks, etc. It was around 3 a.m., completely nighttime, and me and my friend were outside the bars having a smoke. My friend suggested going in to take a drink and see if we stay for a bit in that place, or go looking how the others are looking. Now this is when it becomes incredibly weird. My friend and I go inside the bar, all full with people dancing, and I mean the place is packed with people. We speak with the waiter and order our drinks. We turn around and the place is empty. We turn around again to the waiter and he is also not there. No one is. We go outside all shocked with our fresh drinks in hand. Fresh ice. It was clear that the drink was just made at that moment and not hours ago. We look around and it was freaking daytime. We looked at our phones and it was 8 a.m. Turn around to the bar. It's closed. Workers cleaning the street. No one around. Every bar was closed. Bear in mind that the bars close at 6. So it wouldn't have made sense that it was later than we thought, because the waiters would still have to clean the place before closing. And literally 1 second before all this, the bar was full of people and drinks on the floor. My friend remembers everything in the exact same way I do, and we weren't drunk at all. I'm actually glad I have a witness. Case file number 1569, written by Lucidity Mama, the Elusive Watermelon. I had groceries delivered from Kroger. On my order is a watermelon and $160 worth of other groceries that aren't even close to being worth $160, but hey, America. Anyway, as I'm taking my bags of groceries from my porch, I see the personal watermelon I'd ordered in one of the bags. I put that bag down in my foyer along with the others and then fish through several of them to determine which items I'm taking to my garage to put in my other fridge and freezer. Again, America. My garage entrance is just off my foyer, thus laying the bags out on the floor there. So I take several items to the other fridge and then bring the remaining bags, a heavy heap because there's gallons of juice and, watermelon, to my kitchen counter. I start emptying the bags and my 12-year-old comes and helps me. As I get down to the last two, I notice I don't see the watermelon. I ask my 12-year-old, "Hey, where did you put the watermelon?" And she responds, "What watermelon? I didn't see one." Mind you, she never left the kitchen. She's been in there with me the whole time. I then empty the rest of the bags and guess what? No watermelon. I think, okay, so maybe I just left it at the front of the house? Maybe I left it on the porch. Maybe I accidentally took it to the garage and left it there. Nope, no, 9, not there, not anywhere. I never actually touched the watermelon, but I did actually see it. Now it is nowhere to be found. It is quite literally just gone. Where the hell is my watermelon? Case file number 1570, written by Bonita248, the sub that defied reality. I am constantly getting my mind blown. I swear it's exciting to see these things happening in my world. However, it's a bit unsettling because it's hard to really accept the fact that we may actually be living in a simulation. If we were, then I wish my creators or players or whomever would make my games less boring. Anyway, on to the story. Well, I go to the laundromat every 2 weeks, give or take, and as of recently, I switched to a newer, more kid-friendly mat since I take my 2 youngest children with me. This particular laundromat is right next door to a Subway, the sandwich restaurant, not an actual station. Well, I decided Saturday that once I put my clothes to dry, we would head over to the Subway to kill some time and get lunch to take home. I bought 3 subs. 2 of them were 6 inches with plain Italian bread. However, my older daughter only had meat on her 6-inch, and my youngest had all the fixings. I also had one with all the fixings, but mine had a different type of bread and it was a 12-inch. So we get back to the house and decide to go to the neighborhood play area that has benches to sit on and enjoy our lunch. I only bought 3 sandwiches and I passed them out and we ate. We didn't finish, so I wrapped them up and took them home to put in the refrigerator. Later that day, I grabbed the rest of my 12-inch and finished it off. My youngest daughter got hers out and warmed it up on a plate and ate a little more, then put it back in the refrigerator, still on the plate that she used to warm it up. Fast forward to Sunday. So last night, my older daughter, the one with the sandwich with only meat, went to finish her sub, and this is where the glitch is. She gets the last sub out of the bag and it's a duplicate of my other daughter's sandwich, with all the fixings. Confused, she asked who ate my sandwich. So I think, well, maybe the other daughter got hers by mistake. So she took hers from their plate and unwrapped it, and it was her original one with all the fixings as well. What the hell? Now I know for a fact that neither subs were mine, because like I said, I finished mine the day before, plus it had a different type of bread. I know the older daughter only had meat because we watched them make it at the store, and plus she ate some at the playground. And there's no way she would have eaten it with all that stuff on it, as she hates it. What happened to the other sub? How is there another sub that I never ordered and was never in the bag to begin with? Case file number 1571, written by Shoe and Breaker, a quirky twist, the Baffling Badminton incident. When I was 12, my family and I were at my dad's friend's house in Arizona for some form of party. Out back they had a pool, a badminton court, and a large patio. They were pretty affluent, and was a really nice place with a lot of embedded lighting, which is somewhat important. Anyway, I was playing badminton with someone there for a while, mostly just screwing around and trying to see who could hit the shuttle harder. On one upswing, I caught it with considerable force and launched it nearly vertical. We waited for a sec, but it never came back down. We looked around, and being that there were lots of people, good lighting, and not much shrubbery around, it was odd that no one found it. We gave up looking and went about meandering the party. Fast forward about 45 minutes, and the person I was playing with and I were chilling next to the pool, when there was a sploosh in the water. There was no one in the pool, and no one doing anything odd or throwing anything. We looked in the pool, and there was a shuttle, just chilling. We made sure no one threw it or had seen it since we looked for it the first time. It was pretty bewildering at the time, and I still wonder, where did it go for that span of time? Case file number 1572, written by JFS OCC, The Boy from Dreams in France. When I was younger, me and my family used to go to the south of France for the holidays. My mom and dad had one of those tents that folds out of a cart thingy. During one of the nights sleeping there, I had a weird dream. I saw a boy, a little bit older than me, looking at me with intense fear, and he started howling in a weird way, all the while reaching out towards me. I saw the surroundings clearly as well. Freaky dream. I woke up, told my father, just had a bad dream. Moving to the next day. My dad had a tendency to take me on adventures, long walks enjoying the surrounding countryside that inevitably ended up in a place where you could have lunch, and that day was no different, except my mother went along. Oh yeah, I forgot, I was on a bicycle during my dream, on the back. So because my mother went along, and her constitution wasn't the same as mine or my father's, we took our bikes. We only had space for 2 bikes, I think, because I recall having a bike but not with me. After a long walk, we got to this hill, and I was tired enough to take the back seat off my mother's bike, when all of a sudden, I recognize where we are, and there is that damn boy looking at me with that intense look, reaching out to me and howling weirdly. His mother rushed out, started talking with my mother. Years later, I learned that the boy was autistic and wasn't allowed to ride bicycles because of the dangers, but really wanted to. He wasn't fearfully reaching out to me, but longingly to the bike. But it had all gone exactly like I dreamt. I know I haven't mixed the order of the dream and the event, because my dad confirmed it for me that I had the dream before we came across the autistic boy. I've had some other weird stuff happen, not much, but this is my biggest glitch in the Matrix story. Bonus file, written by Gemstar, When Spirits Speak Across Generations. Brief backstory. My grandmother was a teacher. For several years, she taught at the school I went to. This was grade school. She had a coworker, we'll call her Suzanne, who was a fairly new teacher when my grandmother was getting towards retirement age. Many years later, I worked for an American Corps program whose members basically served as teachers' aides in area schools. Turns out Suzanne was still teaching and working at the school where I was placed. This is relevant, I promise. Shortly before I was due to start working there, the principal of the school took me around to introduce me to the teachers. Suzanne remembered me and asked how my grandfather was doing. I guess she still kept in touch with my grandmother occasionally. And at that point, my grandfather was near the end of his life and in hospice care. My grandpa passed away later that week. Weird crap began happening, but that's not the most relevant thing here. It's important to mention that my mom and one of her sisters have this sort of psychic thing going on. Not reading thoughts or anything, but just crap with spirits. I don't know how exactly to describe it because I'm a muggle. Fast forward to a few months later. One morning, an email went out from the principal notifying everyone that Suzanne would be out for a while because her mother had passed away overnight. My grandmother was out of town, and I gave her a call to let her know in case she would want to send a card. A few minutes later, I got a call from my mom asking me what time Suzanne's mom died. I have no idea why she thought I would know that, and I asked why she wanted to know. Turns out that sometime in the wee hours of the morning, my grandpa had come to my mom trying to communicate some sort of message to her that she was supposed to let someone know that someone was with him, that it was a woman, and that she was okay. My mom had been confused since she'd been trying to sleep, so she was trying to tell him to go bother my aunt, who was on the other coast 3 hours behind us and probably still awake. I guess he did, and in the morning, my aunt had called my mom about it. Neither of them knew anyone who'd been sick or dying or anything, so they were mystified. I guess she just talked to my grandma and put enough together to solve the mystery. My mom told me all of this, and I literally fell on the floor wondering what the hell is wrong with my family that this weird crap happens. Had David After Dentist existed at this point? I would have summed it up with an, is this real life? Case file number 1573, written by Alt Zatu, the 25-year psychic bond. This seems silly, but it's our story and deserves to be told. Maybe someone else will understand. My friend and I have some kind of weird psychic connection. I've known him for about 25 years now. We have similar dreams. When we're around each other, we don't really talk much. We know what the other person is thinking most of the time. It's not perfect, and I'm never really sure if I know what he's thinking. It's just a gut feeling. Oh, X is thinking about going to Y restaurant. That kind of thing. Now, normally I would chalk it up to coincidence, or mentioning said restaurant in conversation at some point. But it happens with most things. When my mother was diagnosed with breast cancer, I called him after I called my partner. He already knew. He said it just came to him, and he was waiting for my phone call. Now about our dreams. We both dream about events in the future. Just about every night since I can remember. Normally they're just a snapshot of an event, like reading a paragraph from a book. You know what's going on, but you don't have any context to explain it, and unless someone mentions the date, or there is a calendar around, I don't know when it'll happen. Honestly, I'm waiting for a dream that doesn't happen. I'm hoping one day I just won't know. My friend has these same type of dreams. His usually involve more important events. When we compare our dreams, it's like the next paragraph. It completes the picture. The really frustrating thing is, no matter how much we know, we can't change most things. I've gotten to the point where I can manipulate the events in my dream, and I let them play out so I realize if I'm in that event, I can change it from its original outcome to something more favorable for all involved. Some things I can't change, no matter what events I change in dream. The best I can do so far is change how that one event plays out. I don't know if it changes anything else. Normally, I have a gut feeling that doing one thing is favorable over another, no rhyme or reason. I wish it were as cool as it sounds. I once tried to see if I could get lottery numbers, but it didn't work. I'm almost 30 now, and I have 2 or 3 of these dreams a night. Some days it feels like I'm living in a fog of déjà vu. When that happens, it doesn't feel like your life. It feels like someone else is controlling everything, and you're just an animal in a larger unseen system. It pretty much sucks. Mostly because the events are easily predictable, generally. And how can I prove it to myself that I'm not slowly losing my grip on sanity? I can't prove anything, because I've tried. I want to prove this. I want to show it to the world. I want science to understand what's going on. I'm the kind of person that if I saw a Bigfoot or something, I'd kill it so we can study it and prove that this is in fact what I saw. One of my dreams last night wasn't me though. It was someone else in a big city. They were debating getting a soft pretzel or a hot dog as a quick snack. If they chose a hot dog, the superior choice in my book, an old woman will try to cross the road, but a bus running a yellow light will hit her, clip her. She'll fall down and die. A little kid on the bus will see this, and it'll mess him up. If they choose a soft pretzel, they'll be the one in line to cross before the old woman, and she won't be able to cross until everyone else crosses. The man will see the bus and see it's going too fast to stop, so he won't cross and indirectly save the woman's life. The boy won't see anything traumatic and he'll be fine. For some reason the boy is important. I think it's because he has a high capacity for violence. Really, I don't know. See how vague that is? What city was it? It was either in the US or Western Europe. That's pretty much all I know. No dates, no time frame. Despite being as specific as I'm able, it's still not clear. Why wasn't it me? Am I supposed to tell the story to other people? Is my role just to write the story here, and the person it's supposed to affect will see it and remember it? How can I be certain it was a dream of future events and not just a regular old dream? It's frustrating. Very frustrating. Case file number 1574, written by Skip Earth, the voice that controls Tony. I have a part-time job that entails me walking around a small town all day. I have the ability to slack off, and I do so. So every morning, I get a coffee and bring it to an old man that runs a small local specialty shop. I sit in his shop and we chat for about an hour a day. I know his tiny 400 square foot store well, his radio, what's in the store, etc. Today, while JQ10's sitting there, he looked a little off. I don't know how to explain it, but he looked like he didn't feel well. I even asked him and he said he was fine. He wears the same shirt every day to do his work. It's like an apron to him. That also wasn't on him today at first. As we were sitting there, I hear a loud and clear PA system say something and cut off suddenly. Almost like a voice out of the air, like a voice from nowhere, but with the static of a PA system. Clear as day from within the store. I asked Tony, the shop owner, and he didn't hear it, but immediately after it, he changed into his work shirt and started acting normal. It was almost like a movie and someone told him to get into character and then he was regular. I couldn't make out what the voice said, but I was weirded out by this. Case file number 1575, written by Magical Bunny, Secrets of the Heart. So, I recently started watching Twin Peaks, as in the past few days. I'm an ex-film student and this was always recommended to me by lecturers and friends who love film, and I thought I'd finally give it a go. It's pretty good, but I digress. So spoiler alert, there is a heart necklace that's significant in the show, like the one where you keep half and give half to a friend or loved one. Anyway, I've been watching it for the past few days. I live in a house and my room is near my mom's room. I've been watching the show when she called me in to look at progress on a craft project. I went in, discussed it with her, told her it looked good, and went back to my room. Only now there's a half one of those heart necklaces in the walkway to my room. The walkway I just walked out of minutes before. The chain was gold tone with a knot in it. The pendant was mint green enamel with green gems around the edges. 1 or 2 gems were missing and the back of it was a bit tarnished. I picked it up and showed my mom, and we both never saw it before. The words on it were best friends. It was a half with the first halves of the words on. I could only assume that maybe my dogs had found it somewhere and maybe put it there. It seemed the only logical explanation, as we generally never have people over. I then placed it on a shelf in our hallway as I didn't really know what to do with it. The next morning I went to have a look and it's gone. There may be some explanation, but given recent events at my place, I find this really weird. And the timing with the show about a heart necklace just adds another layer of oddity. My best guess is this. There's a rat in the house somewhere, maybe, and maybe it had it in a nest, brought it out and took it back, and the show is just a coincidence. Case file number 1576, written by Ponzilla Gorilla, Flames in the Rain. My friend and I have a regular habit of driving up to Chicago to various concerts throughout the school year and driving back the same night. The 3-4 hour drive was always fun, but almost every time I would fall asleep on the way back for the last 45 minutes or so. This one night, after watching Japan Droids play at Scubas, we drove home through a torrential downpour, the likes I hadn't previously seen. My buddy always gave me crap for never staying up with him the entire way, so I was determined to prove him wrong, and failed in spectacular fashion. I kinda wonder how I fell asleep through the thunder and loud rain constantly pelting the truck, cause it was loud as hell. The last thing I remember was him saying something to the effect of, "I didn't think you'd fall asleep this early." And then I was out like a light. My buddy shouts, "Holy freaking crap dude, wake up and check this out." I jolt awake, it's 4 a.m. We're on the interstate close to home and the rain looks like it's coming down even harder than it previously was. I look ahead and can't believe what I see. In the oncoming lane underneath an overpass to a country road is a completely overturned semi and trailer, bits of rubber and twisted metal strewn about the asphalt, broken glass everywhere. How can I see rubber and metal and glass everywhere? Because everything was on fire in the rainstorm sent by Poseidon himself. And I'm not talking like a little brush fire or a stovetop fire. It looked like someone threw freaking napalm on this 18-wheeler. This thing was engulfed. The flames licked up high into the night and were starting to spread up into the overpass. I couldn't tell if there were people inside, but my heart was in my throat the entire time. My friend and I were speechless and drove on in silence and amazement at what we saw, and didn't really speak of it until a few weeks later. But you know what the kicker was? There was no one else, and I do mean no one there on the interstate, save for me and my friend. No cops, no firemen, no emergency services, no lights or sirens, not even passing pedestrians on our side of the road or the other. Just us speeding past a lonely, flaming heap in the middle of the storm of the summer. What really made this crap real for me was how I couldn't find any news about this on any of the local news channels or newspapers. Google turned up nothing about a semi or trailer fire in my area later than about 2003, and this happened just a few months ago. I told my friends about this fire and no one believed me. Even the guy who saw it with me is starting to have doubt that it actually happened, or that he wants to completely forget about it. When I asked if he heard any news about it a few days after the fact, he said, quite sarcastically, that it was filled with a bunch of Mexican migrant workers that the CIA took out. Obviously, he was being a dick for dick's sake. But the fact that he would gloss over what we saw simultaneously gives me the creeps, and makes me very suspicious. I took a trip the next afternoon back to the spot where we saw it. There was no trace of any accident. I didn't see burn marks from the fire or any pieces of semi. I don't know what to believe anymore. Case answer file 1566. The mysterious journey of the wandering cards. People can have specific attunement to various different kinds of objects. For you it was cards, for me it's coins. I tend to find them all over the place, just walking around outside. In the dirt, on the pavement, it's weird. I guess it's not that inexplicable. People, especially these days, tend to not really care about change, but still, it's something that occurs to me. Do you have anything that you're kind of attuned to that you always seem to find in weird spots? But I do agree that it is foolish is maybe a strong word, but I guess it applies, to be certain of the reality of the universe. There's so many variables and so many possibilities. What can apply to one theory can apply to another. So, are you absolutely certain of what you think is true for the nature of the universe? I'm not. There's so many possibilities. Of course, I gravitate more towards the simulation theory, but even that is just a stopgap, because then you go to the real universe, and then is that a real universe or another simulation? Or is there a God in that universe, a creator? Or is there no creator, and this is all sort of like a repeating cycle, the big crunch, where the universe expands and contracts again and again for infinity? I don't know. There's things I prefer. I don't know. With all those variables, I think it's fair to just say, I'm not sure. But there are theories I gravitate more towards. I think that's a fair statement. Your child having almost like a save file from their past life embedded in their soul. Isn't that interesting? It really is like loading into a new game. You beat a game in the first run, now you're loading into a second run. How cool is that? That's so cool. And of course that does tend more towards simulation theory, but who knows? Maybe there's a creator that is just pushing us back into a new life. Maybe we have a choice in that, and we just don't remember. Case file number 1567. A chance encounter with a pink sock. So the you in a different universe lost her sock, is my guess. It's the simplest explanation. In that universe, she's walking around, suddenly gets back to the flat and realizes she's missing a sock, and it's on the pavement in a different universe. Or it could be an extreme coincidence, for sure. If it was a normal girl just wearing the same kind of sock that you have, and then suddenly somehow lost it on the pavement there, maybe it got wet, maybe it was raining and she took it off there and didn't want it. There's a striking similarity in preferences there. So I think if you found this girl, you'd get along quite well. So be on the lookout for your sock twin. Case notes for the bonus file. The Snowstorm Specter. So even if spirits can manifest real matter, in this case, that's not the full story, because your coworker saw you, and you saw yourself, and after examination, there was nothing there. So even if a spirit somehow manifested rock salt on you, did it then de-manifest it? De-render it from the universe? Can a spirit do that? That would be next level, for sure. Maybe a creation of your own mind, induced by a spirit. So it wasn't real, but it was all happening in your head. Of course, that can make it seem very real. But regardless, it must have looked absolutely hilarious from your coworkers' perspectives. It's like, wah! At least you didn't go full Alex Jones, ripping your shirt off. Oh my. Now time for the quote of the day. The best years of your life are the ones in which you decide your problems are your own. You don't blame them on your mother, the ecology, or the president. You realize that you control your own destiny. Albert Ellis. By and large true. There are exceptions, of course. You don't control where you're born or if you get an incurable genetic disease or something like that. But I think as a general statement, it applies. And especially the longer out in the time frame you go, the less luck matters and the more your own choices and skill matter. You see this on YouTube. It's the same thing where a single video doesn't really matter and it's mostly luck if it goes really high or not, to an extent. If you're producing something to the quality of Quirky, the channel that makes these animations of really interesting theories and stuff, they're so good that there's no chance they wouldn't succeed, in my view. But if you're just really good, then there's a certain element of luck to it. But if you stretch it out over years and years or decades, then luck is much less relevant. If you're extremely unlucky, maybe then you still won't make it in any field. It doesn't have to be YouTube. It applies in general. We make our own luck in the long term. But there's plenty of short-term fluctuation and chaos. You have to learn to live with that and even enjoy it, because it does make life interesting. Question file 1568. When night turns to day without warning, so that your drink still had fresh ice is definitely the key detail. If you did time warp, then you had the drink with you and it came with you. What you're holding comes along, but it had to be a wide enough area to encompass your friend as well, but then not encompass the bartender or anyone else in the area. It is seemingly attuned specifically for you and your friend. Why? Who cared about you and your friend? Not that you don't matter in a general sense, just why you, right? That is a question that probably entered your mind. Space-time portals they don't seem random, is all I'm getting from this. The more and more stories I hear and read about this is that space-time portals are not random, or at least most of the time are not. Something wanted you to be involved in one. Case on file 1569. The elusive watermelon. So yeah, indeed, inflation is going wild. I remember 2 years ago when I first moved to North Carolina, a pack of 24 cans of Dr. Pepper was about $8 at Walmart. Now it's $13. We're talking about every 3 years, prices are doubling. This isn't sustainable. How is anyone affording anything? I mean, it's a struggle for me, and I'm sure it's a struggle for a lot of other people. But that is exactly what happens when you create trillions of dollars out of thin air and inject it into the economy, as happened during the COVID mania. Mania is probably the best word for it. If you think it was necessary or not, well, these are the consequences that follow, and I don't think a lot of people are considering all the consequences. Now we kind of have to suffer them, sadly. And then to top it all off, the universe goes and steals your watermelon when you're already struggling. That's just unfair. The universe has no chill. Case file 1570. The sub that defied reality. Less boring, huh? Be careful what you wish for, Bonita. It won't always be mysterious sandwiches that appear and replace a different one. I mean, that's not a bad switcheroo going on. Also, your oldest daughter sounds like me when I was a kid, where I just wanted to eat meat and bread. I didn't want to have vegetables at all. Trying to get me to eat a vegetable was quite the challenge. Of course, now I mostly just eat vegetables, so times change. Now time for the joke of the day. I'm not a fan of elevator music. It's bad on so many levels. You get it? Different floors, different levels. Yes, and also holding music when you have to be on the phone with the bank or something. It's terrible. Come on, do better. Case file 1571. A quirky twist. The Baffling Badminton incident. So if no one was looking at the shuttle while it was far up in the air from a powerful thrust, then I suppose it must have de-rendered. But the catalyst isn't explained. Why did it de-render? Which is very uncommon for things to do in the grand scheme of things. And then re-render 45 minutes later. Why exactly at that moment? Did someone choose it? I mean, that's really the question, isn't it? Is this all complete chaos and randomness, or did some will choose this? What is more scary? I don't know. Case file 1572. The Boy from Dreams and France. I just get chills when reading stories about predicting the future, especially in dream format. Though yes, it's often in ways that don't provide context. So there was one story where the man was tumbling over in a field, the colors were muted, people were running at him weirdly, But it turns out the field was just rough to run on, and the people running towards him, they were trying to help him, but they sounded weird because they were running and grunting and all that. But there was no malicious intent. Often I think our minds, our subconscious, kind of infuse malicious intent or negativity into our perception of the future. Or it could just be random nightmares, even if they're not trying to tell you the future. Sadly, a lot of people tend to be stuck in that rut of negativity. Do you typically have nightmares? I'm lucky. I almost never have nightmares. I do have strange dreams sometimes, if I remember them, which is rare. I think I had one nightmare in my whole life, at least that I remember. So I'm very lucky in that regard. Case notes of the bonus file. When spirits speak across generations. So perhaps when you die and all other copies of you in all other multiverse universes are exhausted, they're all dead too. Then you're on your last life and you lose that life. Maybe then you enter into the ethereal spiritual realm. Like a ghost, I suppose. And in that place, reality isn't exactly linear. And there Grandpa was. Part of him anyways. Trying to pass on a message from, let's say, a fellow traveler. And really, isn't that what we'd all want? If we died, we were on our last life, and we were really passing on to whatever's next. Wouldn't the first and only thing you really want to do in this mortal coil is make sure that people who cared about you know you're still around in some form? I think that gives closure to a certain extent. Yeah, that's what I would want to do. And play pranks if I was stuck here. That's what I would do for fun. What else are you going to do? Now time for the joke of the day. A man tells his wife he will be working from home today. Maybe on our lunch break, we could have a quickie. It's pronounced quiche. Wasn't talking about food. Oh my, that's a naughty one. Case notes for file 1573. The 25-year psychic bond. Psychic bonds, like Bluetooth for our minds. But very similar to Bluetooth, the connection can be wonky, unstable, it can waver, and even when seemingly connected properly, the connection doesn't always feed information accurately. Sometimes the information is garbled, or not interpreted by the device correctly. In this case, the device being our brain. But future predictions and dreams are a bigger beast to deal with, in terms of explaining what's going on. Especially when those future predictions affect the timeline that you're in, the one that you actually experience. This goes even beyond replay theory, where the idea is, we already made our choices, and now we're just experiencing a kind of movie of what we did, or a replay in a video game where you see your actions and what you did and what everyone else did. But yeah, this is a step ahead of that. It's almost like your dreams are an editor for the replay or the movie. You're able to go into the movie when you're dreaming and splice out certain parts or alter them, edit them in certain formats. Now, it's not like a direct interface with a computer where I'm editing videos. It's not exactly like that, but it is similar, an allegory to that. This is true power over reality. And it is truly awe-inspiring, even if you don't have direct control over it. Case notes for file 1574. The voice that controls Tony. So first off, your job sounds awesome. Being able to be paid to walk around all day around town, I mean, that's just awesome. Nice. But the most important question to ask here is the sound that you heard over the PA system that apparently Tony didn't hear. And I'm guessing if anyone else was in the shop, no one else heard it either. It's like the philosophical question of, does a tree make a sound if it falls in the forest and no one is around to hear it? Well, on a purely physical sense, what is sound? Sound is just organized vibrations in the atmosphere, or any medium, doesn't have to be through air. So in that sense, yes, it does make a sound. But in the metaphysical sense, a sound is contingent on being heard, on being observed, processed by a conscious mind. So in that regard, I think it was real, but I think it was a sound that you weren't meant to pick up on. I don't think you were meant to hear it. Get into character, Tony. You're on the clock now. It's a real Truman Show vibes there. I'm just waiting for Tony to bust out the product placement randomly and stare into a specific direction where apparently there are no cameras, but I guess there are cameras. Boy, that'd be really creepy. Now time for the quote of the day. Great part of being a grown-up, you never have to do anything. Peter Blake. Yeah, you never have to do anything technically, and you also can do anything you want. Isn't that the point of why it's so overwhelming for so many people? If you think back to when you're a kid, mostly your days are free, but they're also planned for the important stuff, right? And in that kind of environment, it's this weird juxtaposition where sometimes you feel more free the less options you have. The more options you have, the more constrained by the overwhelming abundance of choice. And you feel like you're trapped. You see this all the time when you're trying to pick a show to watch when you're having an evening meal, which is something I do, a ritual where you make your food, you sit it down, and then you feel, okay, what am I going to watch? And by the time you find something, the food is already cold. It's a real problem. To counter that, you should pick the movie before you make the food. But I digress. The overabundance of choice and the freedom to do anything you want, well, it's perfectly normal if you feel like that is overwhelming. You're not alone. Case also file 1575, Secrets of the Heart. Okay, if enough thought is given on a specific type of object, or even a very specific unique object, can our souls act as a sort of cosmic black hole, sucking in that object near us, pulling it in through our sheer will and focus, even if it's subconscious? And in that way, maybe through various acts of dominoes tumbling, your theory is correct. It was a rat that had a nest with a necklace in it, or maybe the rat just was influenced to go and find a necklace like that, then brought it back. This could have started right away as soon as you started to see the necklace in Twin Peaks. I don't remember what episode it first makes an appearance. I think it's the first one, actually. So that would lend more credence to this. So the rat is influenced to go and find this necklace, then brought it into view where it would cross your path, and then pull it away. Maybe your subconscious mind wanted this experience. It wanted to experience something that just made no sense. It was a grand mystery, at least grand in your life. Now, maybe it wasn't a rat, maybe it was the universe itself, but one way or another, it is very clear that your will, your thought process focused on this necklace is what made it appear. It is just too random, too great a coincidence for it to be random, in my view. And also, yes, Twin Peaks is great, watch it. It is quite old, but it has that vibe that can only be described as classic, in a different time, pure and true. You owe it to yourself to watch it. Case Alts File 1576, Flames in the Rain. So I think it's safe to say the CIA is not involved, unless they're the ones responsible for multiverse sight and travel. Which, hey, I guess I wouldn't put it past them, but that would be a bit of a stretch. It's an accident that's lost to the multiverse rivers. You'll never find it because the river timeline you're on, even through a single day of travel, has so many branching paths that you've traveled on without realizing it, that finding your way back is simply impossible. It would be like trying to find the exact spot in the universe where you were a day ago. And I mean, in the physical universe, the planet is traveling through it. The planet's orbiting the sun, which is traveling around the galaxy is moving towards Andromeda, and so on and so forth. The exact X, Y, Z coordinates, 3D spatial coordinates of space-time where you were a day ago, you can never find that again. It is impossible, even though those coordinates do exist, you just can't ever find it. There's no compass to guide you back. Now time for the quote of the day. Never judge a book by its movie. J.W. Egan. Yep. So hard to translate a book into a movie. A simple theory is that a book has so many intricate details because you can add so much to a book. Hundreds or thousands of pages, and often there's multiple series. And given that, well, yeah, of course it's hard to translate a book of that size with so much information to a 2 or 3 hour spectacle, which the spectacle is more designed to captivate you. So it's all the good bits, but if you don't have the context, those bits might not make sense or pay off. Now I think when you have multiple parts to a movie, like Lord of the Rings, the trilogy, okay, that is a fantastic adaptation. Also the Harry Potter series, pretty good. There are some things they changed that I don't like the Death Eaters being able to fly. I like the detail that it was only Voldemort and Snape that could fly. But I digress, that's not too important. Overall, they're good series. But generally, standalone movie adaptations don't do quite well for me. Although TV show book adaptations are pretty good. The Expanse for one. And more recently, Three Body Problem on Netflix. The movie can still be good for a general audience that has never read the source material. Maybe that's the whole goal. Anyway, that was really long-winded. I'll leave it on Watch The Expanse. Amazing show. Like the video, subscribe, hit the bell. Kinetic Symphony signing off.